So our next presenter is Al Johnson. Al is the Vice President of Prevention Services at WorkSafeBC. In his current role as Vice President, Prevention Services, Al provides leadership and strategic direction to reduce injury, illness, and disease in BC workplaces and ensures compliance to the Occupational Health and Safety Regulation and Act. Al is a seasoned leader and health and safety professional with over 30 years' experience in the business of occupational health and safety. He began his career working at an oil refinery in Ontario before traveling west in the early 80s to join Workers' Compensation Board of BC as an officer working in Vancouver at first and then in Prince George. 89, he established a consulting firm offering health and safety expertise to a wide variety of clients in Western Canada. 99, Al rejoined WorkSafeBC as Regional Prevention Manager and then Regional Director before accepting his current position as Vice President. So hands together for Al Johnson.
Thanks, Mike. Can everybody hear me? I'm good. I'm going to share a secret with you. I'm lifting right now, and I'm sure some of you are too. Not a good thing, though. I'll stop. So good afternoon. My pleasure to be here right after lunch. You always love this spot to speak. I'm going to try to keep you all engaged and try to keep you awake. Mike started the conference this morning. When he opened things, he asked people to raise their hands if this was their conference. They'd been here before, if they're new to the conference. I'm a newbie. This is my first time, and I've got to tell you, I'm most impressed with what I see. I knew this conference had been going on for a number of years, and I knew I was impressed, but to truly feel it firsthand is even more so. 400 people that come to this event year after year now, 450 of you here today. I've got to tip my hat to you, taking one of your 52 Saturdays out of the year to spend it focused on health and safety. That's tremendous. So a round of applause for yourselves, please. On that note as well, I would like to challenge all of you, and I have two things I'd like to challenge you. First is share the information that you learned today. Share it with others at your workplace. Share it with your spouse. Share it with your kids, whatever the case may be, but share it with someone, because it's one piece to learn, it's another piece to share those learnings. The other thing I would ask you to do and challenge you with is, as the organizing committee spends 12 months of the year organizing for the next conference next year, spend your 12 months thinking of one person you might be able to bring to the conference next year, whether they're in your own company, whether they're another company, but bring somebody with you next year so that we can continue to grow and we continue to message and focus on health and safety. So those are the two challenges to you. And I'll start the slides. Do I do that or do you do that? There we go. WorkSafeBC. Everybody knows who we are. We are in the business of injury and disease prevention. We want every worker in this province, no matter what work site they go to in the morning, we want them to come home at the end of the day, safe and free of injury and disease. That's our mandate. That is what we try to do, but we don't do it alone. We do it with many different organizations and all of you that are sitting in the room. Not an easy task to complete, but we've been working hard to achieve that. We administer the Workers' Compensation Act and the Occupational Health and Safety Regulation. Those are the legislative pieces of what we do. We do that through education, consultation, and enforcement. And I don't think any of you in the room, I've said anything that any of you don't already know. We have prevention officers, some who are here today certainly and work with myself. Our prevention officers are out there doing inspections on a regular basis to try to work with employers and workers to make the workplaces safer. We also have an entire group of resource people, the prevention team, bigger umbrella if I could call it that provide a tremendous amount of resources so that employers, workers, labor groups can all engage in health and safety and that we can all move health and safety injuries to where we need them to be, and that is zero. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention at this point the great efforts that all of you have been contributing to. You heard earlier today about CHAG and MAG and TAG, certainly the BC Forest Safety Council, all of the groups that are out there that work with us, work with you, and yourselves individually and collectively within your own companies to drive injuries down, and you've done a tremendous job over the last little while to come to where we are today. And we can celebrate those successes, but we also all know there's a lot more work to do. One injury is one too many. One work-related death is certainly one too many. I could stand here for the next 20 minutes and talk a lot about injury statistics. I could go on about all sorts of injury statistics and present with you a lot of information about regulation, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to talk to you today about leadership. The focus of my talk is on leadership. More specifically, and maybe more precisely, it's about safety leadership. And if you want to really zero it down on what I'd like to message to you, it's about you and I as leaders in safety. All of us working as leaders in safety to achieve what we need to do, and that is safe and healthy workplaces. Now, safety leadership, it's the responsibility of the many. It happens at all levels, and to be effective, it needs to be evident at all levels. And you'll see on the slide these groups that I speak to. Whether you're an owner, an employer, a prime contractor, certainly a supervisor or a worker, you all have a role to play when it comes to safety leadership. Safety leadership also doesn't just happen. There's a number of characteristics with it that you have to work on and work toward. And again, I would encourage you to do so as you leave today and continue to express yourself as a leader in safety. Safety leadership is purposeful. You have to think about it and go out and do it. It's deliberate. It takes ownership. It requires action. And it certainly needs and requires practice. All of us can be leaders in safety if we think about it in this perspective. Safety leadership is not about the book, the rule book, the regulation book, meeting the regulations, ensuring that the inspecting officer doesn't write us up. It's not about the program that you have on your desk or in your truck or in your back pocket, an info flip or a book or a binder. It's not about the certificate or the qualification. Safety leadership is about the practice. It is about the action. It is about the doing. It's being a safety leader each day, in and out, whether you're working on your own or whether you're working with others. It's demonstrating those attributes of safety leadership. I don't need to tell you that forestry is a risky business. Absolutely no doubt about it. There's a seriously high risk of serious injury. Seriously high risk of serious injury. You know what I mean. There is certainly a high risk of death. It is a high-risk industry. The jobs that you do day in, day out are risky. Just by show of hands, how many of you in the room know of somebody, personally know of somebody that's been seriously injured working in the woods? The hands are staggering. This is dangerous work, no doubt about it. Our focus at WorkSafeBC is on risk also. What we try to do is identify where those risks manifest themselves. We try to then put things into place to mitigate or lessen those risks so that hopefully we can reduce those risks or in a perfect world eliminate those risks. And that is what we try to focus on in all of the initiatives and strategies that we employ. You'll see on the slide we focus on 4 high-risk strategies predominantly. One of them is forestry. Within these 4 high-risk strategies, construction, healthcare, forestry, and manufacturing, about 80% of all of the injuries in this province occur. So it's natural to focus your efforts on trying to identify those risks, what is hurting those people in those industries, try to mitigate those risks, and hopefully reduce and eliminate. In the forestry high-risk strategy, and you may know about this, I'm hoping you already do, we focus on 4 areas. The impetus of our forestry strategy is to focus on 4 harvest phases: cable yarding, log transport, mechanized harvesting, and certainly manual tree falling. If I take you to manual tree falling for a minute, I want to ask you to think about what type of falling practices are leading to serious injury and death in the woods. Because they are. And I put a list together myself, and I'm certainly not an expert. you're the experts, but the list you can read here, and I think most of you would agree with the list. Excessive brushing, failing to retreat from the base, failing to prepare an escape path, failing to properly assess overhead hazards, failing to fall danger trees, failing to use proper falling cuts, and falling trees within tree lengths of other workers. These are the unsafe, high-risk practices that are causing serious injury and death. These are the mechanisms of injury, if you want to call them that. And I would say to you as safety leaders, your job is to act, to anticipate each of these high-risk scenarios. You anticipate them so that you can do something about them before they occur. You do not fall prey to these high-risk practices or these scenarios. You don't accept them as being the way we do business, because they're not. And certainly, you do what you can to control those risks. Leadership in safety, certainly when it comes to leadership in safety, and I'm talking specifically in the woods, recognizes that fallers must be certified and qualified. It recognizes and ensures that fallers are qualified to work in the conditions of that particular site. It also places considerable responsibility on a qualified supervisor, and huge responsibility on the supervisor to plan, to ensure the work practices are safe and properly executed, to do inspections, to ensure that the plan is being worked and that those work practices are effective, to keep records of those inspections and what is going on at that particular site, as well as maintaining a priority on safety and not being distracted by the other 110 things that typically supervisors are charged with as well. Safety leadership is about starting with planning. Following plans at the site to identify and control known and unforeseeable risks. And then it's about making the plan real. It's not good to have a plan that doesn't work. And when something goes sideways, you then say, I should have looked at the plan. It starts with planning, and it's about making the plan real. Working the plan, as I've mentioned, amending the plan or changing the plan as you have to, as things on the site change, paying attention to safety, and certainly doing the work safely. I'd like to share a video with you. It's about 6.5 or 7 minutes. For those who were here last year, you would have seen an injured worker. His name was Mike Roussel. He was an electrical worker that was electrocuted. A very serious injury, and you saw his video that talked about his recovery and his return to work. This is the flip side. This is a fellow by the name of Mike Honeyman, and he's going to tell you in his own words about what he felt as the employer when one of his workers was seriously injured. And he's going to speak to you specifically what I talked about, leadership in safety. And it's more than having a safety program and making sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed when it comes to what we mean by a safety program. It's about living and executing his efforts as a safety leader.
My name is Mike Honeyman. I'm the Regional Manager of the Arctic Arrow Powerline Group in Cranbrook, British Columbia. I started with Arrow installations in February of 2006 as an engineering technician, and in 2008 I was offered the opportunity to buy into the company, and my wife and I chose to do that. At that time we bought basically 1/9 of the company. We came into it thinking not a lot of people would have this opportunity at this stage in their lives to get into something like this. When we bought in, the company was growing, and we were very excited for the future. Things just divvied themselves out based on what needed to be done. I took on that role of developing the occupational health and safety program for our company. I was actually pretty excited about doing that. I spent a lot of time at it. I added all kinds of awesome pictures, used nice fonts and different colors, and made this nice title page and signed it off. I felt very proud of that. I'd been an owner at Arrow for just over a year, and Mike Roussel was a sub-foreman. I didn't actually know him very well. He was, one of the guys, a relatively new employee, and there was a lot of them. He was working on a high voltage line, had climbed up a pole when he was electrocuted. There was 14,000 volts in that line, and he was encompassed with a ball of flames. The electrical arc lasted for quite a while until it broke, and he fell away backwards, unconscious, up on the pole. He was rescued by the apprentice he was with and the hydro crews that showed up, flown to Calgary, taken to the hospital. There was a long period of time, again, where you didn't know if he was going to live or die. I can't imagine what his family was going through at that time. It was awful, really awful. And it was scary. Coming in the morning and gathering everybody around, and people are wondering, well, is he going to be all right? Is he conscious? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And, they did their best to do what they could, but as a result of the injuries he sustained, he lost his arm and his leg. When something this severe happens, the investigation is right now. So you have people coming in. WCB, you've got the investigator, and there was an ex-RCMP guy that was part of that. And that's stressful. It's a tough thing to be sitting in the middle of, and you're getting asked a lot of questions that you don't have a very good answer for. Everything about your company is exposed and vulnerable. And it doesn't matter how much good stuff you did. It's the things you didn't do good they come to the forefront, and they come quick. And that hurts, especially, when you're proud of something and you don't really think that you did a bad job. Then this happens, and then you realize, yeah, I actually did do a bad job. And now it's out there for everybody to see. And you got a family that's just devastated. Their lives are changed forever. You got a company that's in jeopardy of losing everything. And it was tough to maintain a cohesive unit as an ownership group when that was happening, because you still have to make sure that the business is running as best as it can. You got to take care of the people. You got to deal with the community, all the stuff that comes with that. I'd get phone calls from people while I was at work, even while I was at home. I'd run into people that I hadn't seen in a while, and they'd be like, what went wrong with your company that you guys became this, where you got a guy that's life has changed forever. You don't care about the people, is basically the message I got. Your business is in jeopardy when something like this happens, and how you react to that is going to kind of define who you are as a person. And you got to just realize, okay, this is either an opportunity for us to fail miserably as a business, or we can just accept what this is and try and work through it and try and come out somehow on the other end and see where we end up. As far as the occupational health and safety program went, that was a big submission with the investigation. And what I learned from that was I actually did do a good job on covering off the legislation required. Everything that was in there, in that book, was in there. The book was good. But what I learned was that it doesn't matter what you have written down in a book. If that doesn't translate into something real with the people that you are responsible for as a business owner, it means nothing. It's about connecting with people and really showing them that when you're talking about safety, you mean it. And what you mean is that you actually want them to be safe. And you want them to feel comfortable that they can make calls that, hey, something's going sideways here, let's shut her down for the day. Oh, this isn't working right, well, let's go get it fixed before we try it. I honestly think if maybe I had approached it differently when I had the chance to, maybe it could have made a difference. I didn't do that, and huge, hard lesson to learn. It wasn't long after Mike's accident that he was back at the shop here, and right away he said, I want to come back to work. And from 2009 when the accident happened to now, he's a foreman, power line technician with us, but he also has a lot of other roles. He's our A-ticket guy with the safety authority. He deals with scheduling, estimating. He's doing really well. He's a huge part of the success of the company, and I'm happy to have him here. If I was talking to a business owner that was in my shoes, the one thing I would say is go and grab your people and sit down and talk to them about safety. Let them know that that really is something you care about, that you want to make a difference and you want to do what you can to be part of them coming home safer every day. I was holed up in an office for a year and a half writing a book that did nothing for anybody. It was a mistake. Don't make that mistake. Go do what you can now, and hopefully you don't have to learn things the hard way.
Today, Mike is a safety leader. He learned the hard way. He learned to become a safety leader after a tragic event. I would say to yourselves that as safety leaders, it's all about making safety real. Listen to what he said about taking what's on a piece of paper, in a regulation book, in a program binder, and put it into reality. Leadership is about making safety real for yourself and certainly for those that you work with. Thanks for listening.